it, B? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to lockdown coverage week number 7 in the National Football League. Jacksonville Jaguars on the road taking on the Indianapolis Colts in a little bit of AFC South family business. You know how the family do it. You know how the Jags do it after they lose. They go out and they bust some ass, and that's what they did in this game. And that's been the trend. And I've been saying that over the last about month or so because I picked up on the trend very early. Ass whooping to start the season off, then a loss. Ass whooping the following week, then a loss. Ass whooping the following week, then a loss. So it was only fitting that this was an ass whooping week, and the Colts just happened to be the next team up on the schedule, and so they had to get their ass whooped. And this game got ugly early. The Jags went out and took care of business early. This was impressive. And that's the hard part about this Jaguars team this year is what to make of them, because one week they're dominant defensively. They forced turnovers, and they didn't force any turnovers in this game, but they were so dominant defensively. They sacked Jacoby Brissett 10 times in this game. Some of that the fault of Jacoby Brissett not getting rid of the football. We'll talk about that when we get to the Colts. But they sacked him 10 times. They allowed them to do little to next to nothing offensively. Meanwhile, no Leonard Fournette. You thought it was going to be a problem. T.J. Yeldon, who hasn't been active basically all season long, they insert him into the starting lineup, and voila. I mean, him and Chris Ivory, well, Ivory started the game, but the bulk of the big plays made out of the running back position came via T.J. Yeldon. And I talked about this probably around week 2 or 3 where I said, this is such a talented football team. They got a talented back in T.J. Yeldon who's not even active. They went with Grant over him, Corey Grant over him, and left him off the active list every single week. That's how talented they are. There are teams that would kill to have a back like T.J. Yeldon, and you saw why in this game. And they said, and this is some of the behind-the-scenes things that you don't know. Remember, new regime. Coughlin didn't draft him. Of course, the GM that did, David Caldwell, is still there, but you've got guys that are disconnected from some of these players that were drafted by Caldwell. They come in and they just look at players and say, hey, look, we don't like your attitude. You haven't matured well enough for us. You go off to the side, and when you figure it out, you let us know, and then we'll decide if you get playing time accordingly. And he was one of those guys that I heard a little bit of an immaturity issue. They felt like he didn't prepare himself well enough to compete at the highest level in this league. He's a very talented player, and they know he can play better. And so they sat his ass off on the side, and they said, hey, when you're ready to put in the work to become a better football player, let us know. We'll give you an opportunity. Well, they didn't give him the opportunity. The opportunity fell into his lap because of an injury to Leonard Fournette. And Fournette's going to get injured some more, so he needs to be ready. He performed well in this game, and he was the catalyst, along with Blake Bortles, who played arguably his best game of the season without turning the football over 300 yards. They took out the Colts in short order, 27-0, and there were 3 shutouts in a league where it is so hard to shut out another team. There were 3, count them, 3 shutouts in week 7. This was the first of 3, and so we're gonna make this one nice, quick, and painless, just like the Jacksonville Jaguars did to the Colts in this football game. If you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game. I want you to help us do that by simply hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. We've got a number of social media platforms. There's Instagram, there's YouTube, there's Twitter, there's Facebook. All of this, the links to have you synced up to what's going on here on this channel, down in the discussion tab below. So go ahead and check that out, or excuse me, the description tab below. So check all of those out. And while you're there, these are the ways that you can donate to the channel. Both of those links that you see before you for Patreon and PayPal down in the description below. So check those out. If you can donate, please, I urge you to donate to help further this channel along. If you can't donate, all I ask is that you continue to support this channel the way that you have in the past, which is liking, sharing, and subscribing to the Louie T Network. That being said, we're going to make this as quick as possible on a tight schedule today. A lot of lockdown coverage coming over the next 4 hours or so. So buckle up. It's going to be a very quick, fast-paced ride. And we're going to start with this Jaguars football team. Blake Bortles was outstanding in this game. He's starting to put together a little bit of a connection with Marquise Lee. He seems to be the only one that can stay healthy at the receiver position, which is funny because remember when he first got into the league, he was the one that was always hurt. Now he seems to be the only one that suits up every week. Allen Hurns starting to come on. Both of those guys had big games, along with the tight end position. Mercedes Lewis starting to become a bigger part of this offense, and that's a good thing. You always need your tight end, especially when you're a quarterback that struggles from time to time. So the security blanket of a quarterback is the tight end. Marcedes Lewis starting to make some big plays. But the running game is always going to be the biggest help and crutch to Blake Bortles in this offense. And TJ Yeldon was outstanding in this game. And Chris Ivory continues to be a good secondary back for this football team. He stepped up in this football game. But the story of the game offensively was Blake Bortles and his ability to drive the football down the field, to make smart decisions, to not turn it over, and to go over 300 yards without the aid of Leonard Fournette getting the football 27 times. That was amazing in itself. But they still handed the football off. Don't get it twisted. Chris Ivory had a ton of carries, and then you still had 9 carries for TJ Yeldon, who eclipsed 100 yards on just 9 carries. That's how effective he was in this game. Yeldon was outstanding. I think because of the way he played in this game, he may see more touches. Even when Fournette comes back, you may see a little bit more of TJ Yeldon. I thought he caught the football well out of the backfield, and he ran it exceptionally well, including that big touchdown run to pretty much put this game out of reach. So the Jaguars offensively were outstanding, and they really fed off. They really allowed the defense to go out and do what they did. Normally, it's the other way around. The defense is so dominant that the offense gets short fields. The defense scores on defense. And so the offense is just allowed to be conservative, not do anything. Really, the offense came out and took it to the Colts in this game. You looked up on the scoreboard, it was 14-0 relatively early in the first quarter, and that allowed the defense to get aggressive because the Colts really couldn't get into what they probably wanted to do, which was run the football more in this game. They had some success early on the ground with Marlon Mack, but they couldn't really run the football because the score kind of started to get out of hand. They had to go to the passing game, and that allowed this Jaguars defense to tee off. Speaking of which, Jaguars defensively outstanding in this game. They got after Jacoby Brissett, like I said, sacked him 10 times. This pass rush is by far and away the most lethal in the league right now. They are head and shoulders above everyone else in the league. I think this is their second or third game of the season where they've had double-digit sacks in a game. I remember in Week 1 versus the Texans, they sacked those quarterbacks a combined 10 or 11 times in that game. Here's another game in the AFC South where they sacked the quarterback 10 times. So this is a team that right now is head and shoulders above the rest of the league in terms of sacks. And they've got a multitude of guys that can get you. Even Sheldon Day got involved in this game, but Calais Campbell has been probably the biggest free agent acquisition of the offseason, along with A.J. Boye. I mean, I think if you're the Jaguars, you've got to be pleased with the investments that and the return on the investments that you're getting from A.J. Boye and Calais Campbell. Both of those guys have come in and instantly turned around this Jaguars defense. So you're getting interior rush from Campbell, and then you're getting outside rush from Ngakoue, Fowler Jr., Miles Jack is blitzing up the A-gap. I mean, they're coming from all over. They're so hard to stop because all of these guys can win one-on-one matchups. They're blitzing effectively. These guys are a nightmare. And then you can't throw it on the outsides with Ramsey and Boye on the outside. And then they've got guys that are playing exceptional football all over the field. This defense is swarming. The Colts stood no chance in this game. And the Jags defense and offense worked in unison to take it to the Colts 27-0 to give the Jags their 4th win of the season. I can't remember the last time the Jags had 4 wins in a season this early. This is going to be around an 8-8 ball club, and they're going to compete to try to make the playoffs, and they may win this division. If they can find a way to stop losing every other week, they may be the best team in this division because defense and run game travels no matter where you go, and the Jags have both of those things. If they can limit the turnovers, and Blake Bortles didn't turn it over in this game. They did have some fumbles in this game, but he didn't himself, and he did have a fumble, but he didn't throw in any interceptions. That's going to be the big key is if he can take care of the football, this could be a dangerous Jags team moving forward for the Colts. Right now, they look like one of the worst teams in the league. Even though they got 2 wins and the 49ers don't have any and the Browns don't have, they look like one of the worst teams. I can tell you this much, they're one of the most poorly coached teams in all of football. This team they simply don't get it. Jacoby Brissett holds on to the football way too long. I like him. I've said this a number of times. I like Jacoby Brissett. I think he could start in this league, but they're just overmatched. There's not a lot of talent on this Colts football team. The one guy that you were excited about, Malik Hooker, he just shredded his knee, tore his ACL and his MCL. He's done for the season. So the one glimmer of hope, the one guy defensively that you wanted to go out and see every week, no longer on the football field. Marlon Mack continues to not get enough touches, and we can't understand why for the life of us. Chuck Pagano, he is so clueless. It's time for Chuck to go. Somebody needs to put Chuck out of his misery. And I like Chuck Pagano, but he's a defensive coordinator in this league. He's not a head coach, and he's just out of it. I mean, there are just too many instances of this guy just seemingly not getting it, and this team just doesn't stand a chance most weeks. They're overmatched. They don't have enough talent, and I think I've heard some craziness about trading Andrew Luck. You see the value in Andrew Luck by him not playing. You see how much he means to this team, because with Andrew Luck, they're probably 5-2 right now. Without Andrew Luck, they're 2-5, and they're a hopeless franchise. So trading Andrew Luck, I think not. Just getting him healthy. And if I'm the Colts, I don't even think about playing Andrew Luck this year. There's no reason to. You're not a good football team. Is it not going to be the coach that's going to be coaching them next year? What's the point? Just go ahead, allow him to fully heal up, get the new coaching staff in here, give him a head start on being able to be prepared next year and not having to worry about rehabbing anything. If I'm the Colts, I shut him down for the season, allow this train wreck to continue to go off the rails and off the tracks, and then go ahead and start making the changes that you deem necessary to get this Indianapolis Colts organization back on track. But they were thoroughly dominated in this game. Jacoby Brissett, like I said, held on to the football way too long. We're waiting for Marlon Mack to get way more touches. T.Y. Hilton was basically non-existent again and again. When he plays like this, his name is Eugene, not T.Y. And so he was Eugene in this game, and you'll get that from him from time to time. The skill positions stink. Chester Rogers, you're seeing too much of him. When you start seeing a bunch of Chester Rogers, you have a problem in Indianapolis, and they have a problem in Indianapolis right now defensively. Again, they don't have enough talent. They're a team that's going to continue to struggle because they simply don't have enough talent defensively. You lose the most talented player on your defense in Malik Hooker for the entire season, so that kind of takes away the one thing that you were looking for on that side of the football. This team is hopeless. If you're a Colts fan, I feel for you. I empathize with you. I've been there before when my team was horrible and there wasn't really much to look forward to. 2010 was probably one of the worst years in terms of talent for the Redskins. And 2013 was the most train wreck circus-like season for the Redskins. So I've been there. I've been at some really low points as a fan, and this has got to be one for the Indianapolis. You've been there before, though. The year that you didn't have Peyton Manning and you basically sucked for luck, it was a pretty bad season as well. But at least there was something to look forward to. You knew you were going to get Andrew Luck out of that season. If you continue to be bad, there is no silver lining here other than, hey, maybe we'll get Andrew Luck back next year and a better coach that'll give us a chance to compete next season. But that's a long ways away. I don't like talking about next season, and we're only in week 7. Good luck to you Colts fans. You're going to need it. Jags whoop some ass on the road in the division, 27-0 over the Indianapolis Colts. I'll take a few comments. I'm on a very tight schedule today. Don't have a lot of time to take a bunch of comments. So we'll pick out a few and we'll keep it moving. Vincent Coe says, what's up, Lou? It's brazy to think about trading Andrew Luck for the Colts to rebuild again, LOL. No way. If I'm the Colts, I'm not even entertaining that thought. And in most sports, you can't get equal value for a superstar. Andrew Luck is a superstar quarterback. When healthy, he can change the fortunes of a franchise. If you're the Colts, you don't want to go back into the quarterback wilderness. You haven't been there in such a long time. Why would you want to enter into that? You keep Andrew Luck and you fix this thing by getting a new head coach and some more talented football players. Allow your GM, who did a really good job, I thought, in the last year's draft, of having another offseason to fix this team, fix this roster. No way you trade Andrew Luck. SOL's Nation says, who's the best team when healthy? That's an impossible question to answer right now. There's so much parity in this league right now. It's too tough to say who's the best team. We'll be able to know more about this league in about 2 weeks. At the halfway point of this season, teams will start to separate themselves from the pack. Right now, everyone is kind of bunched together except for a select few like Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, New England. Those teams are trying to separate themselves. Kansas City, even though they're on a 2-game slot, those teams are trying to separate themselves from the pack, but other teams are pulling them back in. So it's too tough to say right now. Enrique Valencia says, another week, another horrible loss. Tell me why this Colts team isn't the worst. I can't. I just told you, you'd be hard-pressed to find enough reasons why the Colts aren't the worst team in the league, despite having 2 wins over the only other 2 teams that haven't won in the league. I looked at this Colts team in this game, and I said, they might be the worst team in the league. This was a tough watch. The Colts looked They looked like a dejected, defeated football team in this game. And not because of the scoreboard, but because of the overall state of the franchise. They look bad. They look helpless in this game. And Chuck Pagano does not help that situation at all. Vincent Cole says, shout out to sad Colts fan. Shout out to sad Colts fan, man. Hang in there. Enrique Valencia says, and guess who was inactive once more because he can't play special teams? That is ridiculous that the corner out of Florida continues to be inactive because he doesn't play special teams. That is just ridiculous. It's mind-boggling, and it just speaks volumes and speaks to the point why this Colts team isn't very good. It is ridiculous to think that a guy with that kind of talent isn't active because he doesn't play special teams. Again, I don't have anything else to really say. Pagano has to go in the sake of youth development. Mack, only 4 carries. Me and Enrique, week after week, continue to beat the Marlon Mack drum, and our cries and drum beats go unheard every single week. It is ridiculous. Enrique Valencia says, when Hearns fumbled the ball into the end zone and Pagano didn't even challenge, he's a fraud. I'll give him credit for stealing money from Jim Irsay. That was the play that I was referencing when I said he's clueless and he just doesn't get it. It reminded me of week 1 against the Rams where a Colt player extends the football over the goal line. He doesn't challenge for some inexplicable reason, maybe because he says, well, we're at the half-yard line and it's first down, we'll get in, and the Rams turn around and stop the Colts 4 straight times. They got no points. They end up losing the game in blowout fashion. And again, you can't make those types of mistakes. You have to give your team a chance. And if challenging and sacrificing a timeout in the name of just making sure that it is right, the call on the field is right, so be it. He didn't even attempt. And that's how this team looked. They looked like they didn't even attempt in this ball game, and it is a shame. Johnny Odom, if you want your comment read in the future, use the hashtag LouieTLive. The Jags definitely have to be better against the run. We saw that against the Rams a week ago. If they step up their run game, they're going to be a team to be reckoned with in that AFC South. They're already that way now, just to offer the strength of their pass rush and their ability to run the football. If they can shut down the opposition's run game, they're going to be a tough team to beat moving forward, absolutely, as this season continues to progress. But that's going to do it for Jaguars and Colts. Jags destroy the Colts in Indy 27-0, blanking them, getting their 4th win of the season as they head into their bye week. Big win for the Jags. For the Colts, it's another debilitating loss in a season that looks lost at this point, and there's really not a lot of hope for the Indianapolis Colts moving forward. Your coach is clueless. This roster doesn't seem like it has an abundance of talent. And the guys that you think are talented, like a Quincy Wilson, not even active, like a Marlon Mack, not getting the football enough, and like Malik Hooker, done for the season with an ACL, MCL tear. So it looks really bleak in Indy right now as the Jags hammer that point home with a 27-0 blanking of the Colts in Indianapolis. That's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Lockdown Coverage. I got plenty more lockdown coverage coming your way. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. I'll see you in a second. Come back. More lockdown coverage to come. Have a good one.